Okay. Well, I'm John Bodner, and this is my final reflection video for SDS4410 interpersonal communication. So, basically, what I wanted to talk about was um, because of taking this course, I really feel like, really, I feel like not only am I more effective as a communicator, I mean, that's just kind of a cliche answer, but I really do feel like I learned some helpful skills as a result of taking this course. Early on, one of the first things I learned was all about cultural communication and bridging that gap that you're going to get. And one of the biggest examples that we had was through the lab that we did that week, which was Chinese nonverbal gestures. I thought that was really interesting. I pointed out in my paper about how, the Chinese symbol for seven was a gun, or at least to us, it's like this, it resembles a gun. So if you, a person from America is going to see it and think they're symboling for a gun, but Chinese symbol is seven. So six and then seven. So um, it really is important for us to be able to take this class so we can learn about the differences in communication, understand that there are differences in communication between an American culture and a Chinese culture, or an American culture and I don't know, any culture, Bangladesh, Japan, any of those cultures. There's going to be differences, and it's important to take this class to know that those differences do exist and to acknowledge them and to see how we can work around them. And it's not even necessarily differences between a collectivist culture and an individualistic culture. It's kind of just the fact that we aren't all the same. And taking this class has really helped me grow and realize that. But of course, moving on, I learned a lot about the different methods of communication, primarily between text messaging and talking face to face and online talking and things like that. I personally don't have a Facebook or Twitter or things like that, so um, but I used to, and it really is just really impersonal. You really don't use those things. If you want to have a really deep conversation with someone, at least you shouldn't. Um, because you're not going to get the same amount of disclosure as you would if you would have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. And just learning, just getting the opportunity to study that more and understand why is it personal, what makes it more effective, what makes this communication method appropriate here, but what makes it not appropriate here is really interesting to me. And so getting to study that was really one of the greatest things I got to do throughout this course. And I think perhaps the greatest thing for me out of all of it was conflict. Studying conflict closer to the end of the course was really what was interesting to me, um, primarily because um, conflict is something that I have always had trouble dealing with. Not necessarily because I deal with it a lot, but it's just um, when I do have to deal with it, I'm not an effective communicator, and so getting to study it and learning about the different methods of how people handle conflict. So for me, it was avoidance. Avoidance is something I do quite a lot, and I've actually noticed it a little bit more now that since I've taken this course, that avoidance is one of the many ways that we handle conflict, and learning how to resolve that and bridge that to where you don't have to necessarily avoid a conflict. You don't have to make a conflict competitive. You don't have to do anything like that. You can actually resolve a conflict through communication, and that was really interesting for me to learn how to do. Uh, it was not the easiest thing in the world to acknowledge that you're bad at communicating when it comes to conflicts, but it was it was very 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 interesting to me to kind of relate my avoidance, my tendency to avoid, towards my inability to forgive people. One of the assessments that we did was about forgiveness, and I had a very 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 hard time kind of accepting that it's just I don't like to forgive people, and I don't know why that is. And it kind of contradicts my ability to be empathetic because I am very empathetic. One of the assessments was I came out very empathetic towards people. I like to understand people's feelings. I'm there for people when they're upset. And, um, you know, being empathetic kind of comes to my detriment a lot. But I can understand somebody's feelings, but at the same time, I think being that empathetic has made me numb to my own feelings in respect that I don't think people understand how I feel about things, and so that makes me very, very very hesitant to forgive people, and that's why I think I'm really prone to being avoidant when it comes to conflict because, um, my social circle will just continue to dwindle the more conflict I come into because I'm so hesitant to forgive people, and so if I avoid a conflict and don't have to bring it up and don't have to talk about it, then my social circle will continue to shrink, and my inability to communicate with people won't necessarily be as blatant and visible. And so uh, that's one of the things that I've had to work on now after taking this class, and I plan on becoming a more effective communicator when it comes to conflict and practicing that method when it comes to problems that I face with friends and family and those kinds of things. But overall, I am very, very thankful for this course. I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to try and sum it up. Um, I'm very, very thankful for everything this course has done for me, helped me grow as a professional and as a person. Um, the lessons that I learned about cultural communication are going to help me in my professional life for years and years to come. I'm going into law enforcement after graduation, and so being able to communicate across cultural and break those cultural barriers is really, really important. And personally, being able to resolve conflicts and learn to forgive people is something that I'm going to need, not only in relationships but with friendships, in your family life, and professional life. Be able to just communicate effectively throughout a conflict and resolve it is really going to make all the difference in the world. And I have that course to thank for that. And this is me.